welcome all of you to 12th Man at RapidLeaks. My name is Tyagi. Let's rewind the clocks back to 2007. Let's just go over 10 years back in time. We are at Kensington Oval, the great Sir Garfield Sober's land. It's the biggest stage of the men's cricket. It's the ICC Cricket World Cup. West Indies have lost a very important game against England by a very painful margin. At the conclusion of the game, a man walks up in the presentation ceremony and he asks of the audience that is assembled there. And the audience, some of them, they are crying, some of them have their hearts panting, some of them, they are just stunned and they are just silent. He asks, "Have I entertained?" Well, Brian, Charles, Lara, are you kidding us? Were you joking? Did you entertain? What was this all about? Well, have you ever come across a doctor who treats his patients without administering them a dose of anesthesia? Brian Charles Lara operated over bowlers with surgical precision, and each time he did so, it seemed that he would reduce bowlers to a permanent state of anesthesia. We all know that in a few days of time, Jason Holder would lead his troops, if I can call them that, to India for what he would expect to be a heavily contested series against Virat Kohli and his team. Now, while the test purist and the die-hard West Indian fans, self-included, would want the series to be a closely fought series, can we really expect it to go to the edge and go down the wire? In fact, let me just raise this question to you today. Had Brian Charles Lara been occupying the 22 yards, would the series not have been really a live wire of a series? The West Indies today have in batsmen like Shea Hope, Roston Chase, Shimron Hetmyer, Jermaine Blackwood, even Lewis, a very tall order of talented batsmen. They can be greats in the coming years. Back then, even before Lara had arrived, the spiral decline had started. It had been triggered by a series of dull performances that transpired in the mid-90s, which is when Brian Lara had arrived, and this was triggered also by the declining age and retirements of the great Desmond Haynes, Gordon Greenidge, Vivian Richards had already retired, and it was up to Brian Charles Lara and a little bit on Shivnarine Chandrapal and bowlers like Ambrose and Walsh to slow this painful spread of cancer that has now engulfed the West Indian cricket. Today, I'm going to ask you a question that when I say Brian Charles Lara, what really comes across to your mind? If Tendulkar is the god of cricket, then would it be wrong to say Brian Lara is the ultimate leveler, he's the ultimate entertainer? Where was another batsman who could divide and bring fans that were divided all across the world so closer, so united than this Prince of Trinidad? I'm going to tell you 5 epic facts about Brian Charles Lara that uphold and celebrate his legend. Fact number 1. He has the record of 34 test centuries, which is perhaps, as you may know, the highest number of test centuries he scored as a West Indian batsman, and nobody else has even come closer to this tally. Chandrapal certainly have, but one wishes he would have had at least half a year to stay in international cricket, which he wasn't awarded, and this is really sad. Fact number 2. Of Lara's 34 test centuries, do you know 900s came against Australia and 7 came against England? So when you have 16 centuries coming against bowling attacks which include Andrew Flintoff, Steve Harmison, Shane Warne, McGrath, Fleming and Gillespie, you know Brian Lara is like the big daddy of scoring hundreds. In the last 4 years of his test playing career, Lara scored on an average 500s every calendar year. Moving on to the next fact. Brian Lara has been an outstanding batsman, we all know, but you know what really makes the Prince of Trinidad outstanding? He happens to be a batsman who scored over 1,000 runs on 5 occasions, 5 separate occasions in his calendar year. Brian Lara, moving on to the next fact, also happens to have played a large number of deliveries in international cricket. Do you know how many they are? They are 32,800 plus deliveries at the international level. This is when he had played 131 test matches. Now, interestingly, when you compare the statistic to what Shivnarine Chandrapal tallied, he played 164 test cricket matches, and Lara had 131 test appearances, from which he's batted around for 32,800 plus deliveries. Moving on to the final fact, and this I think celebrates the man behind the famous boyish charm, aggressive streak, the crouching stance, the perpendicular 90-degree perpendicular batting style. and that trademark one leg up in the air, pull in hook towards the deep square leg region. Well, Brian Charles Lara had an average in the last 4 calendar years in his test career, which was in excess of 40 for the last 4 years repetitively. He also happens to be the only West Indian batsman at that era when he was playing who retired not before scoring 216 as the highest score in the last ever calendar year of his playing appearance. Lara's 216 came against Pakistan in Pakistan, and he bid adieu to the game when he was at the peak of his powers, you could certainly say so. Had Matthew Hayden expected that 380 would actually not be conquered again, who other than Brian Lara to have done it? And before I sign off, here's underlining the real enigma of Brian Charles Lara's genius. Here's a fact that actually underlines the magnitude of Lara's strength that he brought to the crease. If you happen to club and combine the number of minutes Brian Lara batted, first in his 375 and later in his 400 not out against England, you would realize he batted for a total duration of 1,544 minutes. That is 24 hours more. So it's like one whole day Lara was undefeated and he was batting. That's just crazy. Isn't it a ridiculous stat? Even before A.B. de Villiers came and explored his 360-degree range, Tendulkar came to be known as the god of cricket, and Dravid fortified his creation of concrete and mortar with sweat and rigor, calling it the wall. Brian Charles Lara brought together a cricketing world divided by fans, countries and jersey color in a way nobody else did. Salute, Brian. This team needs you. The cricket world needs you. Your statistics really thrill us. Your feats always thrill us. And thanks to video sharing platforms, we have access to all that you have done. Salute to the Prince of Trinidad, the majestic, the one and only Brian Charles Lara.